Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests of all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. I'm Nancy Tefera-Santos, Senior Vice President, eMarketer at Insider Intelligence. Today, we have a great presentation. So our sponsor, Mountain, along with QuickFrame, analyzed 1,800 CTV commercials to really figure out how AI-driven ad creative can help you determine what creative elements to use and how to make your CTV commercials more high performing. This is really good content. We want you to learn and we want you to ask questions. So during the presentation, send in your questions. We'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A. Now I want to introduce two special guests. First, I have Lucas Piazza, who's the CMO at QuickFrame. And I also have Ali Haeri, who's the Vice President of Marketing at Mountain. It's such a pleasure to have you. And I have to say, I'm really personally very interested in this. So I haven't shared with you, but I actually started my career in broadcast back in the rabbit ear days. And I'm thinking having this kind of analysis to really be able to drive your commercials forward is such a huge step in digital transformation. So thank you so much for being here and educating our audience. Ali, over to you.
Great. Thanks again for the opportunity, and thank you to everybody who's tuning in today to join us and learn something that we kind of feel strongly about at Mountain, and I think I could speak for QuickFrame here too. Is we don't want to waste everybody's time with a vendor presentation, and so for that reason, we did this really incredible study with QuickFrame, and the most logical partner for kind of sharing the results of this study was eMarketer, because I think all of us marketers rely on eMarketer data one way or another. And so we thought that this was like the most logical place, most logical forum for us to kind of share these results. And so we really just kind of want to, be a little disarming from the beginning and let you know that we're sharing real results of real data here. That's really what the purpose of this presentation is today. So you'll notice there's a poll. We are interested in understanding who is advertising on connected television. And I think the reason why we want to know that will become obvious as we kind of discuss how the platform works and what went into this study, because there's huge implications. People are making really big investments, as we can see here with eMarketer data. People are making huge investments in the realm of television, and the margin for error is very low. Because you want to be able to create the most impactful creative. And so we totally understand that. And we understand how important that is for advertisers. And so let's go a little bit deeper. And I think for starters, it helps to understand what Mountain is as a platform and how that put us in this position to do this really interesting study with QuickFrame. And so Mountain, very simply, is a self-serve TV advertising platform. And so what's different about Mountain from all of the other CTV platforms that you may have already heard about is that not just that it's self-serve, but with us, we treat television as a performance marketing channel. And so we're indistinguishable, not from linear TV advertising, but rather from platforms like Facebook ads and Google ads. That's really, our advertisers are using us as their third channel for driving performance. And so our pedigree is in performance advertising. That's what our advertisers are looking for. They're looking to extract the most performance out of their TV advertising campaigns. That sort of put us in this position where we did this study. Now, since we are treating television as a performance marketing channel, we feel that it should be treated and measured like one. And so, for example, when advertisers log into our interface, our reporting, again, doesn't look like Nielsen reporting. It looks like the same reporting that you're going to get from some other performance marketing channel. We're talking about a precise number of impressions, a visit rate for users who are visiting your website, even conversion data stemming from your television campaign, which is kind of like a holy grail for a lot of TV advertisers. If you consider the alternatives of measurement in the realm of linear TV advertising, this is really a whole different ballgame. But having this capability of running TV as a performance marketing channel also puts us in this great position where we can test TV creative as you would test creative on, again, some of these other performance marketing channels that you're most familiar with. And so a great example of this most recently was an A/B test that we conducted on our own platform. And so we have the capability of being able to upload multiple creative, run it in the same campaign, and identify which creative performs best. And actually, I want to show you all two variations of creative that we ran on our own platform, featuring, you may be familiar with him, our Chief Creative Officer, Ryan Reynolds. So let's first take a look at the creative, and then we'll discuss the results.
Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, and if you're seeing this, you probably work in the marketing world. Now, I just wanted to let you know that my marketing firm, Maximum Effort, is merging with Mountain, which is one of the fastest growing companies in ad tech. They've built an amazing self-serve connected TV platform, which, not coincidentally, we use to upload this video. Now, if you're not in marketing, I apologize, you must be very confused. Visit mountain.com to schedule a demo. Unless you're not in marketing, which, again, massive apologies. This is Mountain. This is your brand on Mountain. Any questions? Yes, you probably have a ton. This is a pretty blind opening. Anyway, Mountain is one of the fastest growing connected TV platforms, and they just merged with Maximum Effort, the creative marketing company owned by this guy. No, this guy. That's why the mountain volcano metaphor kind of works. It's great tech, and it's great creative in one place. Visit mountain.com for more details. Don't worry, there's no lava.
So great, two great variations within this campaign, and an exercise that most of the performance marketers on this call have probably conducted before, is just kind of running both and identifying the one that drove the better conversion rate. Or in this case, we were measuring by way of visit rate from the campaign. And so what was humorous, and some of you may have seen a follow-up campaign that we've had where we break the news to Ryan and we tell him that, strangely, the version that didn't feature you prominently in the ad was the one that drove a better visit rate back to the website. And so again, this is great, because this is a traditional method of measuring performance marketing campaigns. Now, what's even more interesting is we decided to kind of take this measurement and study of the effectiveness of creative a step further. And this technology that we were able to use by way of our friends at Quickframe is really fascinating. As far as we know, it's a first-of-a-kind study in the advertising industry, and the results are really surprising and fascinating. And so I want to throw it over to Lucas Piazza, CMO of QuickFrame. Lucas, why don't you first tell us about the platform, and then let's dig into the results.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ali. Can we go back? So QuickFrame's global video hub platform is exactly what allowed Mountain to go deeper than A/B testing and apply that AI-powered creative analytics to those 1,800 plus CTV commercials that Nancy referenced at the top of the webinar. You may know our platform for the Creator Collective, which is a global network of more than 5,000 vetted video production companies that allows brands and agencies and publishers to immediately unlock new video content at scale in any geography and for any platform. But you may be less familiar with our Video Vitals component of our platform. Now, this is the AI-powered creative analytics that we developed over the last 2 years. It's fully out of beta now, and it's being utilized by clients of QuickFrame like Self or Bleacher Report on a daily basis to inform the creative that they're making for their campaigns. Now, let's actually go into what creative analytics means. And I like to do that by drawing a comparison to 23andMe. So 23andMe is like Ancestry.com in that, not to be too graphic, but right, you spit into a vial and you mail it off to a company, and they use that DNA to understand kind of the genetic makeup of you as an individual. And from that, you can see where your ancestors came from geographically around the world. But 23andMe also goes a couple of steps deeper than Ancestry.com. They start to reveal some interesting insights around, your personality and the types of food that you should probably be consuming given your genetic makeup and the lifestyle you should be leading. And the same way that 23andMe delivers genetic level insights and information about you as a person, our Video Vitals technology does the same thing for advertising creative. So this Video Vitals technology analyzes creative for thousands of different attributes in near real time. And when you pair that with performance information, you get some very clear do's and don'ts about what performs and what doesn't. Now, before we get into the interesting meat of the presentation, I do want to just take a moment to define a couple of key attributes that we're going to talk about in the following slides. So the first one's fairly obvious, duration. We're going to start there and look at the length of the video for optimal performance. We'll then go into talent, kind of the number of people that should be cast in your CTV commercials and the roles that those people should have within your TV commercials. We'll then get into emotion, which starts to become really interesting in the ways that the computer starts to see different emotion. And we'll specifically look at opening emotion for hook analysis, right? How do you capture people's attention from the jump in order to drive the best results? And the way that the computer understands emotion, it's twofold. One, it's the keywords that are actually present in the voiceover if you have audio in your commercial, and that is a best practice for CTV commercials. So all of these did. And also the kind of the sentiment and tone of the scene. So it looks at the imagery of the scene and starts to draw conclusions around the emotion that's attached to that. And then we'll lastly conclude with looking at different objects. Now, objects are physical elements that appear within the video, and that can range from everything from furniture and the appearance of people and the environment that they're in. And from that, when you start to cluster those into topics or themes, we can start to draw some very clear conclusions around the general vibe and message that you should be delivering within your CTV commercial. Okay, one more slide before we get into the interesting insights, but I just want to take a moment to talk about the methodology. So, we ingested through Video Vitals over 1,800 CTV commercials across 10 different verticals, both 30s and 15s, from July through September of 2021. So very recent advertising creative. And we married that really unique performance data that Mountain's platform makes available. Again, impressions, verified visits, conversions, and actual orders with that CTV creative to reveal these very interesting insights. So without any further ado, let's get into some of those insights. We wanted to start kind of in an approachable place. So we're going to start looking at duration, right? And the question is, should we run 15s or should we run 30s in our CTV campaigns? And the answer actually depends on what you're optimizing for. So if you're looking to drive people to your website, maybe you're thinking about this more as an awareness or consideration play, you can actually skew towards 15s, which is great news for marketers because they tend to be more cost effective to actually produce and can be more cost effective to run. But if your goal is further down the funnel and you're looking to drive actual leads or sales or conversions, you do want to actually buy more airtime, the full 30 seconds, in order to drive higher performance there. Next, we used our Video Vitals to look at the number of people that are cast or should be cast within a CTV commercial. And what we see across both 15-second and 30-second commercials is that more really is more. We saw that commercials that had more than 6 people for both 15 and 30-second commercials performed dramatically better across visit rate as well as conversions than the average commercial. Now, what I think about this is, given the time span of July through September, perhaps the insight here is that audiences that are watching CTV are craving social interaction after nearly 18 months of being, kind of secluded and restricting access to people because of the pandemic. So they want to see the creative reflected on their TV of kind of what they aspire to have in their day-to-day lives. Now, I do want to just address any concerns that any creatives or budget-minded marketers have on this call. Casting 6 people in your commercial can be very expensive. And so we use Video Vitals to also analyze the number of people that should be speaking within your commercials in order to understand what level of professional talent you need to cast in order to hit those performance benchmarks. And the answer, hopefully, is comforting. So what we saw was around that 50% of people that are present in your in your video should be speaking is kind of that sweet spot. Again, that's the sweet spot for both visit rates and conversion rates. And so what that means is that you can have a handful of professional actors or actresses that are actually delivering lines to the camera, and the rest you can hire as extras, right? So that means it's more cost effective and really keeps the focus of the commercial on just a handful of speaking talent. All right, our next category is that opening emotion, right? So they always say that, first impressions matter the most. You have just a few seconds to really capture people's attention and deliver your message. And so we looked at those kind of opening scenes and the opening emotions that advertisers were using. And what we saw was that across these three different emotions of fear, joy, and sadness, fear by leaps and bounds drove the highest number of people to advertisers' websites when you open your commercial with a fear-based message. However, fear is not a great converter on the back end. So if you are looking for conversions and that bottom of the funnel performance, you want to lean into more of an optimistic, joyful type of message. Now, joy also drove a slightly above average visit rate performance as well. So not bad for either one of those objectives, but fear was far more effective. And I want to just pause here on the slide for a moment and unpack a little bit what fear means. Mountain and QuickFrame had this discussion when we found this result. And so we went back and actually watched a couple of the commercials that were tagged as fear by the machines. And fear isn't necessarily opening with a scary clown or something of that nature, but it's really painting a picture of a deficit or this fear of missing out. And it tends to be tied to, if you don't do this, you'll be lacking or missing out on something important in your life. So that's the type of fearful message when you open your commercial that really is driving very high consideration and visits to your website. Now, the last category that I want to go into is going to be vertical specific. So we're going to look at 4 different verticals, and we'll start with beauty and wellness. And what we're looking at here is this idea of topics. So a topic is sort of like a cluster of different objects and keywords, right? So we kind of explored that a little bit already. But it gives you a general idea of the overall message or the kind of the themes that you should be touching on within your CTV commercials. So within the beauty and wellness space, I think there's a couple of interesting things here, right? Maybe quite obvious is that aging was one of the best performing topics to include in your CTV commercial if you do find yourself in the beauty and wellness space. But I think maybe even more interesting is that makeup artists performed really well. So this can either be casting a professional makeup artist that may be recognized by your audiences and really vouching and verifying for your product, or it can actually show a professional makeup artist using your products on kind of an everyday talent. And it really creates more of that aspirational type of environment that audiences gravitate towards within this vertical. Now, again, on the worst performing topics, gyms. So yes, this is beauty and wellness, but it seems like audiences kind of want to fast forward through some of the hard work that may need to be put in to achieve the results they're looking for. So featuring gyms, talking about fitness in that capacity really did not lead to high performance at all. And I also think, very interestingly, shopping really didn't, audiences were pretty repulsed by the idea of shopping. And again, we double clicked into what shopping means. And shopping was both in-store shopping, so they didn't want to see the burden of having to go into store, pick out the products and check out for them, but it also related to e-commerce shopping. So commercials that really drove the point home of buy now, go to our website, check out now, really turned a lot of audiences off. So a good thing to keep in mind if you are in this vertical. The next vertical that we'll look at is the fashion and apparel sector. So some best performing topics. Good news if you are in footwear, if you sell menswear, or if you have a great line of t-shirts. Those 3 categories were our top performing that we saw through this study. On the worst performing side, we may want to see creative that depicts the reopened world, but we don't want to be reminded that it's time to start dating and being in relationships once again. So using, talking about fashion and style as a way to maybe attract a mate really did not lead to high visit rates. But interestingly, it did lead to slightly higher than average sales on the back end. And then we also see that topic of shopping appear once more within this vertical as really turning audiences away. So advertisers and creatives that may be on this webinar, keep that in mind when you're scripting and concepting your next CTV commercial. Don't push people into stores, don't push them onto your platform. Instead, really highlight the products and the benefits that they will get from them versus driving for the sales, as tempting as it may be, in order to hit your revenue goals. All right, the next vertical is food and beverage. So we see two of the best performing topics are recipes and cooking. And then if you look at the bottom portion of the slide, the worst performing topics, we see that chefs really are not a high performing topic. And so what we start to derive from this combination of findings is that people want to see recipes and cooking at home, but they want to see relatable talent doing it versus professional chefs who may be, again, a little bit out of reach for the everyday audience that's watching CTV. And then also two other poor performing topics are food tech startups. So you may think you have the coolest new food product or this new high performing beverage, but positioning yourself as new and startup-y actually turned off a lot of audiences on CTV. And then interestingly, food delivery also was not a high performing topic. So shy away from the actual delivery service itself. All right, our next vertical is the home and garden sector. So we see themes around homemade and organic products really rise to the top of the heap here. And then from a poor performing perspective, we see kind of this highbrow aesthetic of architects or arts and culture really turn audiences away. So again, keeping your creative relatable and accessible to the everyday audience is really what we saw perform best within this vertical for CTV. And then, for whatever reason, bedding as a theme and a topic did not perform very well. So perhaps audiences are looking for furniture or for accessories that do not relate to bedding itself. So if you do have a wide array of SKUs, potentially lean into featuring other aspects as well. Now, I want to conclude kind of my portion of these insights with just a note for some of the creative professionals that may be joining us today. And what does all of this AI-powered creative analytics really mean for the future of creativity and for advertising? We oftentimes get asked, is this technology at a place where it's going to auto script or auto storyboard our next commercial for us? And that's not the intent of this. At least where it is today, right? The goal really is to help improve the ROI of brands' marketing budget. And we do that in two ways. One, it's really about creating a more efficient pre-production concepting process by giving data-driven insights to the pre-production brainstorming process, taking what is today an ocean of possibilities and ideas and narrowing it ever so slightly into potentially a lake. There's still a lot of depth there and a lot of possibility of different directions you can go in. But by giving you some guardrails, it does accelerate that pre-production process and get you into production faster. And the other way that it helps to improve the ROI of marketing budgets is by getting to peak performance within your campaigns even faster, right? So by knowing what works and what turns audiences off, you can make smarter decisions about the way that you are concepting and filming your next CTV commercial. So MNTN and QuickFrame hope that this was, these insights were interesting and enough to kind of just whet your appetite. A full report is coming in the coming weeks, where we'll go much deeper into all of those topics and more. So Ali and I ask you guys all to stay tuned to our social channels and to our websites, where that full report will be released in the coming weeks. With that, I want to turn it back over to Nancy for the results of the poll and to answer some of the questions that the audience has asked.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Ali. This was really great, wonderful presentation. I love the way you dug into different verticals so we can really see the comparison. There were some surprises there. I think I even said my invitation to this. One of the surprises to me, which wasn't intuitive, is the 30-second performing more so for leads versus the 15 seconds. So really excellent. I also loved your kind of comparison about 23andMe and how it's so important to know your genetic makeup. And as someone who's adopted, I could really relate to that one. So let's get to the poll. This was a good poll. And as a reminder to everyone, here was the question. Are you currently or have you ever run a campaign on CTV? And the results are 65% said yes. And I hope you're going to optimize and have higher performance in the future after watching this. 31% said no, and 4% said unsure. Lucas, Ali, what do you think of those results?
I don't know, Lucas, you wanna take a first crack at that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Nancy, right? Like for the 65% that are already on CTV, we hope that these types of insights will only further improve the performance of your campaigns or your next campaigns. And for those that may still be testing the waters and haven't fully explored what CTV can do for your brand, we also hope that these types of insights can help build the confidence you need to create, pretty high performing creative right out of the gate. And ideally that helps you sell it into your teams, to your leadership, and you can start to test what CTV can do for the performance of your brand.
Yeah, my interest there is that it's great to see so many people using that as a channel. What I'm curious about too, for all of those that are currently doing it, is how you're measuring the success of that. It can't be just a continuation of how things were done in a linear way. Even if you say, hey, I'm a brand marketer, my goals are different. Even as a brand marketer, you want as many data points as possible to understand the success of your brand marketing campaign. And so, whether it's a platform like ours or any other one, really, just the guidance here would be treat it like a performance marketing channel, no matter what your goal is. And as Lucas was kind of sharing with the results of this study, there's certainly a winning formula in terms of what goes into the actual creative. I think one other component, since there's so many people that are doing CTV, one other consideration as it relates to the findings of the study as well, is that what we see on our platform, the most successful advertisers are turning over their creative continuously. This isn't like display advertising or social advertising, where some advertisers just kind of run the same creative indefinitely. Right. Audience gets exhausted of certain creative that they see. Everyone here is almost certainly streaming television themselves, and you've probably experienced this as a viewer yourself. And so that creative needs to be updated on an ongoing basis. And findings like this really are great in guiding you through that creative process.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Lucas. And I think that's great advice as far as the refreshing of the creative. We all feel, one of the principles of advertising is frequency, right? So you think about running something more frequent so people get more familiar with it, and the more familiar, they're going to engage more. So I really appreciate that piece of advice. We had some really good questions come in from the audience, and they keep coming. So keep sending them in, you guys. But I'm going to start with Gina in Providence, wants to know, if we embrace these types of creative analytics, should we still A/B test creative, or does this replace what we're traditionally doing?
Ali, let me take that one. It's a great question, and I know the way that Ali and I kind of positioned it in the presentation may lead you to think that A/B testing is something of the past. And really what these creative analytics tools do is help you build on A/B testing, or maybe even make your A/B tests smarter, so you can get to that peak performance even faster. And so what we see the best advertisers doing is using these data-driven insights to inform their next creative production, but also still creating a couple different versions. And I think it's important to think about, right, the creative analytics right now are almost only as smart as the inputs that they're receiving. So there's always opportunity for that next new creative idea that hasn't even been conceived of yet to be created and tested, and it's going to just totally blow benchmarks out of the water, and that will then accelerate the next round of data and insights that you get. So absolutely continue to embrace A/B testing, but use these data-driven insights to maybe make your A/B testing just a little bit smarter and a little bit more sophisticated than what you were doing in the past.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the recurring theme for me has been all of the above. like any sort of mechanism that's available to you to be able to measure and collect data points, take all of it. One of the interesting sort of use cases that we weren't anticipating originally, but has been a great use of our platform, and certainly I think the same thing would happen with QuickFrame's Video Vitals, is that advertisers who also do linear TV advertising use our platform as a mechanism for testing in a way that they couldn't just do on in a linear TV media buy. And so they'll use our platform to test out different versions of creative, find the one that works best with their target audience, and use that as the creative that they run on linear. I could totally see somebody doing the same thing using the findings from Video Vitals, which is letting that guide the decision making from a creative standpoint, again, to influence their video advertising regardless of channel.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And you just answered, actually, Donna in New York had a question about what's the difference between using these measurement tactics between CTV and linear. So I think you just asked that for us. So thanks, Donna, too, for that question. Another question that came in is Terrell in New York wants to know, he said, I run my brand's media strategy and I'd love to improve our CTV performance with insights. Do you have any tips of how to get our creative team on board? Great question.
Yeah, Terrell, great question. It's the kind of age-old tension between creative and media, the two sides of the marketing organization. The advice I give is it's a lot in positioning and framing. I don't like to think of these insights as rules or regulations, but instead as customer insights, which I think are a lot more valuable to creatives, right? So think about, what does it mean that our audience is gravitating towards shorter commercials for trying to drive website visits? Or what does it mean that they want to see more talent cast in the videos in order to drive the results that the business needs to see, and position it as more of a customer insight and a finding that can be infused into the creative brief and really unlock some new creative ideas within the brainstorming process. So I think about it again as applying a little bit of guardrails and some inspiration versus these things that are really limiting and constricting, which can be very off-putting to the creative process.
And speaking of creative, Anna in Stockholm said, I want to advertise on CTV, but I don't have video creative. What do you recommend for getting up and running affordably and quickly?
Yeah, one thing that we see is we see advertisers that already do social media advertising, which has a video ad unit, or maybe YouTube advertising, which obviously has a video ad unit most prominently. And the only consideration there with those that are looking to just sort of like repurpose that creative is that when you look at like the specifications for running ads on television, it's quite high because these are TV connected devices that we're kind of talking about here. And so, if you can and you have the source material and it can be edited in such a way where it meets the specifications of television, it's obviously a great way to kind of get started. But a little shameless plug for our friends at Quickframe, like that is precisely the platform that a lot of advertisers are using to get CTV creative. In fact, a lot of advertisers that come to us and are interested but just don't have the creative, we send them to Quickframe because we say they have a marketplace that can kind of get you accommodated. I don't know, Lucas, do you want to give like a non-salesy acknowledgement of?
Yeah, I appreciate the tee up on that. That was nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of brands think that CTV is out of reach, and you can start with pretty modest budgets from a media perspective, and creating a couple of net new CTV commercials may be much more affordable than you think. You're exactly right, Ali. Quickframe's whole platform was built to bring down the cost and the turnaround time of original video, and we do that by connecting advertisers with amazing production companies around the world that can crank out living room quality creative pretty quickly and that performs. So yeah, if you're interested, and we do have some interesting exclusive packages between Quickframe and Mountain that can get you started on CTV.
Great, thank you. And we have a really good question from April in Hawaii, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. She's saying, what works for audiences changes, right? I mean, we have seen that with the pandemic very much as well. So time, events, styles change, and new creative comes in and it's different. So how do you be, her question is, how do you be prescriptive without ruling out ideas that may or may not be groundbreaking?
Oh, Lucas, go for it. You're the creative.
Yeah, well, I love the question, right? And I think it goes back to the exact reason why these aren't evergreen rules that will be true forever. Right, this survey looked at creative that was in market July through September. So it's obviously summer months in the Northeast. We were kind of coming out of a bit of the pandemic, and people's perspectives and desires do change obviously throughout the season and throughout the years. So we always encourage advertisers to continuously use Video Vitals or tools like it to continuously monitor the performance and track those trends. So while this was just the first research study that Mountain and QuickFrame have partnered on, we already have plans to do kind of the next version. What does it look like for the holiday season, or what does it look like for kind of Q1 in 2022, and what are some of those different trends that we can track throughout the year? So yes, it is type of technology that you need to continuously use and monitor, because these trends do come and go pretty quickly. And I don't think that anything has made that more clear than a platform like TikTok, right? Which every time I get on TikTok, it seems to be a new trend. And it really is this mantra that Ali was speaking about, of you always have to be creating and refreshing your creative. At QuickFrame, we kind of embrace this idea of the ABCs, and it's just always be creating, because it's really about embracing experimentation and seeing what new version of content is going to lead to performance.
Okay. And we have, like I said, lots of questions coming in. So Ben in Canada is trying to get ahead. You said you're going to send out this report. He wants to know, are there insights for automotive included in the report?
We have not included automotive in the vertical breakouts, but we would love to get in touch and share a little bit more about some of the automotive commercials that we did analyze. We just didn't include it in the final report. Okay, fantastic. We will share that with you, Ben. Another question, Cody in the Bay Area wants to know, how do you attribute views of your video ads to site visits without clicks?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we have a technology that, as my wife's cat jumped in the frame, I know Dan's gonna go crazy right now. We have technology that tracks cross-device behavior. So, if you just kind of think about your own TV watching habits, it's inherently going to be with some other device as you're watching the television. And so our cross-device technology targets users in the household and tracks the other devices that are present inside the household too. So our campaigns also have an audience extension component to it too. So we also serve a complementary set of display advertisements to all of the other, to your target audiences, no matter where they're accessing content, whether it be on the web with display ads or on television as they're streaming content. And so, yeah, so we also compile a very large, continuously updated device graph. And so as users are visiting your website, which is pixeled, again, very similar to the same setup that you'll have with any other performance marketing channel, as these users are visiting the website that's pixeled, we'll be able to take a look at each one of those visitors and match that back to visitors who were served ads previously in that campaign. And if they arrived on that website by way of some other paid source, then we defer the credit for that visit to that other paid source. So it's a cross-device tracking technology that we use.
Great, true attribution there. That's fantastic. And Steve in LA wants to know, where do CTV ads appear? What types of devices, and also what kind of TV networks and shows?
Yeah, I'll take that too. We've done this long enough, and we've essentially tested every possible publisher and device that can serve connected television inventory. And so we've kind of identified the sweet spot for the right combination that serves up the best performance. And really, the finding there has been TV connected devices. So you can serve CTV inventory on laptops and mobile phones as long as someone's running that publisher's app. So if you download the ABC app and you watch content on your mobile device, that's technically CTV inventory. However, that's not the inventory that performs best. In our experience, the inventory that's performing the best is by way of devices that are TV connected. So in that case, that would be Roku, Apple TV, PlayStation, just anything that connects to the big screen in the house. In terms of like the TV inventory, it's ad supported publishers. So if you have the ESPN app, the NBC app, the Bravo app, all of these apps are ad supported. Even things like Hulu, some of the inventory is going to be on that as well. So anything that's kind of ad supported is going to be eligible for your ads to actually run. So that combination of premium networks and TV connected devices, that's the winning formula for performance. Something that you'll notice on some other platforms that don't perform as well or are trying to make up for inventory is sort of obscure TV apps that you would probably see on certain devices, and they get a small volume of traffic. They're also susceptible to CTV fraud, as ad fraud as well, and so for that reason, we just negotiate directly with top tier publishers.
Fantastic. And Cody in the Bay Area has another question. Interesting question here. You see a lot of this, of course, in sports. B2B. So his question is, any insights or tips as to how to measure B2B, being that B2B is going to have a longer buy cycle?
We are the best use case for that because we use our own platform as a B2B brand. We market ourselves to marketers, as you saw with the campaign that we showed today. It's true. Yeah, B2B has its own sort of inherent limitations, but we've actually realized great success with using the platform. We measure conversions by way of leads generated. And so in the same way that an e-commerce advertiser would sort of measure, an order completion, instead what we do is we're measuring form submissions. So that's great from a performance standpoint, because we can optimize to the form submission as the conversion action, just as you would on any other performance marketing platform. The other thing that I've been happy with as a B2B advertiser doing connected television has been the wide range of audience targeting options. So first party targeting, retargeting campaigns based off of site behavior. You can run those exact same campaigns with television campaigns. So, multiple site visits, multiple page views in the site visit, whatever your formula is. CRM targeting, so what we also call list-based retargeting, we have that capability as well. That's been really effective for our ABM campaigns, being able to put our target prospects into the platform and serve them with targeted TV advertising. It's been a big differentiator because all B2B marketers do ABM the same way. Yeah. So it's a great way to stand out. And then finally, on the third-party audience side, we have an integration with the Oracle Data Cloud, and I've been really impressed as a B2B advertiser the breadth of B2B audiences that are available on the platform. So there's a lot to do as a B2B advertiser. I like where your head's at because, again, everyone plays out of the same B2B playbook. This is a way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I love the advice for ABM. Super smart. We have one last question from Fred in New York, wants to know, how are you actually measuring emotional responses and performance to specific elements of the creative?
Yeah, so I can talk about this. Right, for this study, we use the performance metrics that MNTN is able to track. So verified visits to website, as well as actual conversions, whatever that conversion goal was set up to be by the advertiser. There are other technologies out there, right, that allow you to kind of measure people's emotional and facial responses. But for this study, we used the actual cold hard conversion and website visit metrics as the performance data that is required for Video Vitals.
Fantastic. We had lots of questions. Thank you to our audience for sending in all these questions. This was excellent content. I learned a lot. Lucas, Ali, thank you. It was such a pleasure having you here today. Before we wrap up though, let me tell everybody what's happening across eMarketer's media channels. You can register for upcoming live Tech Talk and analyst webinars at eMarketer.com/webinars. On the audio side of the house, don't forget Behind the Numbers. That's our daily podcast. And please check out our daily newsletters. Keep an eye on your email. We're going to send out the link to today's recording, and also look out for that report that Mountain is going to be sharing. You'll get that as well. And again, thank you very much, Lucas. Thank you, Ali. We appreciate it. Thank you to the entire team at Mountain. And before we go, I just want to say thank you to all who have served. Happy Veterans Day.
Hush now, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Just move on up toward your destination.